Welcome to Hollywood Valley. My name is Alvaro Cruz, and today I'm joined by Adam Wilkenfeld. Adam is a three-time Emmy Award-winning director, producer, and writer who has created and produced unscripted television across North America and internationally. His work includes series like Timber Kings on HGTV and Sloppy's World on Netflix. He's also the founder of Showrilly, a platform built to help reality TV and documentary creators get their unscripted ideas in front of verified producers, while giving creators more visibility and protection around their pitches. Adam, welcome to Hollywood Valley.
Hey, I'm thrilled to be here with you.
Awesome. Before we get into Showrilly, how did you transition from journalism to unscripted television?
Growing up, my dream was always journalism. My first job was at CNN, and I was running up the escalator every day. I have such vivid memories of being so happy. It was a dream come true. I never thought I would go into anything entertainment, but I went on this canyoneering trip. That's an outdoor adventure with ropes and waterfalls with some friends. And we came back from that trip, and my buddy was like, "Hey, could you help me with the sizzle reel?" And I didn't even know what a sizzle reel was, but I said, "Come over." And we were there in my Hollywood's tiny one-bedroom apartment on my old iMac. And we ripped some video off of YouTube. We ripped some DVDs and created what I would now call a teaser, not even a sizzle. It wasn't that good, but it was good enough to get the attention of a producer, which was good enough to get the attention of Discovery, which was good enough to get some development money, which was good enough to get a show. And that was how, to answer your question, I got into reality.
What was it like working at CNN?
It was amazing. So my first job was called video journalist, and I think this job doesn't exist anymore. But what a shame, because it was a job where you could come right out of college and go straight to the world's news leader. And you didn't work your way up through newsrooms around the country and Market 295. You went straight to CNN and you interacted and learned from the real professionals in the world of journalism. And, people listening might be younger than I am. You might not remember the days before teleprompters, which currently are run by a computer. They can recognize your voice and see and back up and fast forward depending on where you are. But to name one of the roles that a video journalist had, we had several. One was like organizing scripts by color. The blue one goes to the anchor, the pink one goes to the producer. But the teleprompter role was literally a camera aimed down at a conveyor belt. And as a video journalist, you've put pieces of paper onto that conveyor belt one at a time. Don't get distracted. Don't sneeze, because the wind of your sneeze could blow the paper out of the way. And the anchor is reading that paper live. And this was a job that anywhere in the world, they knew instantly, a viewer would know instantly if a video journalist made a mistake. I mean, any other job, you had editors that would back you up, news director, you had multiple levels of executive producers that would make sure that before something went to air, it looked and sounded the way that it should. But if you were a video journalist right out of college, you could make a mistake that would make the anchor look silly, and the whole world would know instantly before anybody had a chance to correct it.
Was it like handwritten notes, like SNL style?
There would be occasionally some handwritten stuff, but no, it was off of like dot matrix.
As a video journalist, did you go out into the field and work with different crews and get and try to get stories out of people that you were meeting?
I did a little bit. That's not one of the jobs technically of a video journalist. No, to start off, you are ripping scripts, teleprompter, floor director. That's another job where the whole world would know. If you pointed at the wrong camera, go to camera 2, and it was supposed to be camera 1,
Yeah.
Then after that, we went to the feeds department. We're recording satellite feeds from all over the world. But none of these jobs would technically be field work jobs. But I had relationships and I had an interest, and people would take me out in the field. And that was what I wanted to do. That's where I always wanted to be. I remember one opportunity, which wasn't just me, but everybody had this well, not everybody, but an enormous number of people had this opportunity to go to every 4 years, the Republican and the Democrats have their conventions where they nominate the next presidential nominee. And all the major networks, CNN included, would have big operations. And so they brought me out to do, I can't remember what my job was back then. I guess I was in the feeds department, but I got to travel to Philadelphia, and I got to see President George W. Bush get his nomination. And that was in the year 2000. So there were some exciting moments even then. But what led me to move on after CNN was that I really wanted to be in the field more.
How did you use your journalistic background to create stories for unscripted television?
You mean, how did journalism cross over into reality TV? How did that? Yeah, that's great. I think that a a lot of people who are in unscripted, let's say reality TV specifically, because I think documentary has a much more obvious path from journalism. But in the reality TV space, a lot of people who work in that industry, their background is not in journalism, it's in entertainment, it's in production. And they would look at me and it's like, well, they would ask the same question that you're asking, right?
Mhm.
How does that cross over? And more with a skeptical eye. And to me, it's so obvious because a journalist, that's the kind of person that when I'm hiring, I
Mhm.
love working with people who have been in the field under those kinds of pressures, under those kinds of circumstances, who know how to roll with the punches, who know how to ad lib, who know how to build instant rapport with people they've never met before, who know how to ask the follow-up question, who know how to handle things when things go wrong, how to find, in journalism, you can't ever not come back with the story. You make the best of what is in front of you, and you roll with it. And that needs to be the same in reality TV. Like if something doesn't quite go as you had imagined, as you had planned, as the network had approved or approached, you don't just keep hammering on that nail and trying to mold it into exactly what it's supposed to be. At some point, you say, "What does this story want to be? What is the
Yeah.
best version of what's in front of me?" Keeping in mind what we've promised the audience in, scenes that led up to this moment. But if something goes wrong, let's harness that and make that a beautiful mistake that twists and becomes entertaining. And I think that is a skill that I learned in journalism.
Would you say like that what makes really like great reality TV is those moments where, things go wrong and you're like, thank God we're recording that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what makes a great reality TV, call it a host, participant, protagonist, like talent, gosh, they're all crazy. They're crazy, crazy people. Nobody boring gets you don't
Yeah.
you don't get cast. You don't have a crew following you. The network isn't greenlighting a boring individual. These are people who take unexpected turns. They're demanding. They're divas. They're entertaining in all the great ways on TV. But boy, is it a nightmare behind the scenes. You have to be
Yeah.
able to roll with those punches too.
No, it's funny. I always find it hilarious how the best reality TV stars are comedians because they know timing, they know how to play with the people around them, with the audience. And I think a lot of great reality TV is knowing the timing and knowing the genre that you're playing in.
Yeah, the best cast members are the ones who I think I call it they direct from within the scene, and you can talk through, give a 30-second, like, here's what we were anticipating from this moment. Now just go for it. Like, take it where it wants to go. And they can direct from within the scene. They can lead other guests who might be their first time on camera. In some cases, I've had that situation where, you've got your regular cast who are interacting with a guest, and the regular cast member can kind of follow the through line, can orient their bodies, so that people open up to the camera without having a director have to interrupt or reposition. They can ask questions that will be necessary in order to connect tissue from one theme to the next. And those are to be able to dial it up to 11, to have that great personality, but to also be able to be directing from within the scene. That is an amazing skill that will get you the love and the drinks and the hugs and the season twos.
Yeah. Do you think that with reality TV, with unscripted, more viewers are going now to YouTube rather than going the traditional route with cable or Netflix?
Yeah, so YouTube is just taking over. YouTube is the one to watch right now. And creators who are on YouTube are the cutting edge of where reality TV can go and will go in the future. It's a great playing field for anybody who has an idea to not need an agent, to not need a manager, to not need a cousin who works at Netflix, to not have a pathway into the mainstream system. You can put things up on YouTube at very low cost without a crew, just with your phone, right?
Yeah.
There's so much that you can do with a phone and a small wireless microphone and maybe one or two friends, and you can test things out, see what plays, see where the market, see where, as we say, where the show wants to go, where the scene wants to go, what people respond to, and iterate and build and get the attention of millions of people. It's amazing. It's an amazing disruptor. And it's an amazing source of inspiration for those of us who have been doing television for a long time.
What are some fun memories of your past work that you can share.
Or you want behind the scenes stories of like
Yeah,
crazy stuff that happens in reality TV? Well,
of course.
the thing that jumps to mind immediately. This wasn't on camera, right? This is off camera. We were in a small rural town. Conservative town goes to bed early. Only
Mhm.
one bar is open late at night. And the producers, the first week of production, we're all like, make a good impression. We're representing the network here. It's a small town. Everybody knows who the strangers are, those Hollywood cats, right? And the producers stay up all night drinking with the I don't know, the foresters. That's what the chainsaw handlers. And one of the field producers comes back to the hotel in the middle of the night and he grabs a fire extinguisher off the off the wall and he knocks and wakes up one of his buddies. I think it was a camera operator because he had equipment. Or no, it was a camera assistant. Had batteries charging and stuff.
Mhm.
And he knocks on the door and he unloads that canister of, I think they're filled with baking soda, that white powder, all over this guy, all over this hotel room, all over that equipment. I mean, the cleaning fee, the embarrassment, because we've got most of the hotel rented out. Everybody in town knows who we are. Like, this is the first week, stuff like it was a great producer, but we had to send him home. And that's one example of like crazy stuff that happens. So oftentimes, like this craziest stuff happens behind the scenes. I'm sure that story had us talking more than anything that happened on camera that day.
Yeah, when it comes to Unscripted, and I've worked a lot with indie filmmakers too, and we did like a road trip movie, and just the behind the scenes are always the funniest stories. It's always fun, like going to these small towns and working with the crew, because everyone, at least from my experience, like people do enjoy it because they're like, oh, something new's coming into town, but you do have to be respectful. That's something that when it comes to working out in the field, I've realized that you have to respect the culture of the city and be working together.
Oh yeah, you smile at you smile all the time. If your face isn't hurting by the end of the day from all the smiling, that's what gets you. Because people want to hear your stories. They want to ask you about what you're working on, and you just smile and answer. And if there's an opportunity to invite them to get on camera, if you need a shot of something or other, people love that opportunity. If there's a kid, hey, do you want to hold the camera? Do you want to look through the lens? People everywhere in this country, in every country, in small towns and big, everybody wants to help you. And
Yeah.
I think that's an assumption that not enough people make. I think people are too focused on locking their doors at night and are thinking the worst about strangers, that they're about to rob, their car or kidnap their child. And these, sure, these things happen and they make headlines because they're so rare. But actually, people just want to be friendly and they want to help you. That's what I've learned in life.
People are curious about learning about what people are doing, and it's always great seeing hidden talent in people that you never knew and uncovering their talent as well.
I love talking to people. It's part of the job. It's fun. And you learn so many things. And oftentimes, if you have humility about your job, not that like you're the only one who knows how to do this. I mean, it's not a complicated job. I could teach any 18-year-old how to do 80% of my job in a month. The last 20% takes some talent, takes some years, takes some making of mistakes and learning those lessons. But you could knock out 80% of that, of all of that in just a month, is what I always say. And so what I mean by this, to connect with what you're saying, is great ideas come from people that don't work in the industry, people who aren't the producer or the director or the network. The makeup artist oftentimes has the sound guy always has a great idea. Listen to the PA.
Yeah.
My idea is, let's get the best idea on screen, and it doesn't matter whose it is.
And I'm guessing that a lot of that belief is what helped you decide to start Showrilly. So can you explain what led to that jump to going from building unscripted shows, working reality TV, working documentaries, to then deciding to build a tech company that gives people the ability to share their ideas?
Everybody has an idea, and not everybody has a cousin at Netflix, like I said, or an agent or a manager, right? And so what do you do with those ideas? And that's one half of the market. You could go into the YouTube route. A lot of people that takes a lot of skill and time to build, and it can be enormously rewarding if that's what you want to do. But if you don't have that interest or know how to do And what you want is you just want somebody else to come in and make the show. Like, I have this great idea. Can somebody come please make this show? Because I know that millions of people will want to watch. Then where do you take it? And then the other half of the equation, of course, is the producers who, in this time of shrinking budgets and development teams having fewer heads and people wearing more hats and needing to come up with more ideas to be able to pitch. Because if you think about, here's some real talk. If you're a development producer, you need to come up with, let's say, when I was, maybe 25 ideas to make a sale. That was my ratio. So let's say 25-1. And it's probably getting harder than that now. So where are you going to come up with 25 new ideas? Looking at a blank sheet of paper is so hard. So you're scouting through Instagram, you're scouting through YouTube, you're talking to strangers, you're getting on road trips, talking to parents at your school's, swap meet. And there's a real problem here. How do you get outside of your bubble, out of your knowledge, out of your area of expertise, and learn what is actually happening anyway? So the idea is to connect these two spaces, people with ideas, people who need ideas. That's what Showrilly is all about.
And that's smart because I do think, especially in California and Los Angeles, we kind of live in a bubble. So in this media bubble, we come up with the ideas, but we don't have context to what that actually means. And a lot of the context is understanding boots on the ground. Okay, who can help me understand what it's like working on a farm in Montana? I can think about it. I may watch Yellowstone and say, oh, I just watched Yellowstone. Let's make an idea about a Montana farmer. But it's really understanding, okay, who are the players? What's the culture like? What can we create? And that all comes from a person who has that idea or that context. So I think you're right that ideas on a piece of paper from someone sitting in an office in downtown LA are not going to be as solid as someone that is living it in real life.
Yeah, you can't pitch a show that is just, let's follow some farmers in Montana. That's not a show. That's not even a log line. That's the start of an idea. And so I say that as a development producer. Obviously, you could never take that to a network, but I say that to creators on Showrilly and on other platforms, on YouTube and so forth. Like, that's not enough. You need specifics. You need the cast. Yeah. And so that's one thing that I think I would tell creators is the difference between a good pitch and a great pitch or a workable pitch is find your cast. And that's the hard part. As a producer, I have endless format ideas, undercooked format ideas of my own. I don't need your undercooked format idea also. What I need is for you to say, I have this amazing cowboy, let's say, and his family or his crew, and here's what they're like. And maybe even here's a little bit of tape, but you don't even have to have that. Even a little casting reel, but you don't even have to have that. But you do need some specifics. You need to have who is the cast and what would we see in an episode. That would be enough to get a producer intrigued to ask you the follow-up questions and to help you develop it.
Was your process to looking for your cast, searching on YouTube and seeing any interesting videos from certain people that you're like, oh, this is a fun cast?
That is an absolutely viable way. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
What was your process like when you had a format and you had the nugget of an idea of I want this show to be set in this location? How did you approach, before Showrilly and all that, how did you approach looking for that cast?
Yeah. So to use your YouTube example, there was one idea that I had, just an abstract idea. Wouldn't it be interesting if there were some gay farmers? What would that be like? And so I went, I think it might have been on Facebook or Instagram, and I was able to find, and they were amazing. And the tape was amazing. And that was one that I can't believe it didn't sell, but it was called Fairy Dairy. And it was a fun concept. So there's one example of a show that didn't sell that I found basically from an idea and then through casting it on social media. But other ideas, like you mentioned, Timber Kings off the top, that was my big show, 4 seasons and a spinoff, highest rated show in the history of HGTV in Canada. And how that show came to be is because there was the owner of that company. It was a show about guys who build log home mansions for the rich and famous. And the owner of that company was all over me for months saying, Adam, I want you to come up here. Adam, there's a show here. Adam, you got to see it for yourself. And I have a philosophy in life that if someone is that persistent, passionate, it's worth checking out. It's like, I didn't see it. I didn't see it at first, but he was so persistent that I went and I checked it out and I brought a crew and it was amazing. And it became one that millions of people in more than 100 countries have agreed. I didn't see it at first, but I believed in him.
That's amazing. And how did you have any knowledge about working in tech and building a platform? How did you come up with, like, you had the idea, how did you come up with building the technology to create the platform in the marketplace?
I don't I am one of these people who is not afraid of tech, who likes to be, in my kind of creative space. I'm a producer, but I can also run audio. I can run a camera. I can edit. I can't do these. I wouldn't hire myself as an editor professionally, but if it's my own thing, I can edit the heck out of it. So I'm not afraid of these things, but web is not something I've really done since college, like early in my career when Alta Vista was the search engine that we used before Google even, right? So I've only done a little bit here and there, mostly directing other people on what I wanted out of a page. I didn't have a technical background. So I've learned a lot. I love Figma now, for example.
Mhm.
I love Webflow now, for example. I'm really learning I'm able to do some of these things on my own now, but it was because I've hired a team, an amazing team that was able to code my ideas. And then I was able to go in and kind of, through Windsurf and through other platforms, be able to kind of change things and manipulate them around the edges to save me money, to do as much as I can on my own. And that's how my philosophy has always been in my career, is like, that's how I learned how to edit, is because I want to be able to do as much as I can on my own, to be able to understand what I'm asking other people to do, to know whether that's easy, hard, time consuming, something I could do myself. And I've taken that same philosophy into web.
And for when you were building Show, how did you think about it from a creator's perspective, and how did you think about it from producer's perspective?
Yeah, I've been both, right? So that part of it was super easy to put the creator hat on. I have created multiple shows and I've pitched them to networks. I've pitched them to producers. I am very familiar with how that process works, what it takes to create a pitch, to find great cast members, to put it together in a way that networks and producers can instantly understand, to pivot when they don't, and to sell. And
Mhm.
then on the producer side, I've had hundreds of creators come to me and pitch me, including that one that resulted in Timber Kings. I've had hundreds. And so I understand what what they need help with. I understand that there's value there, that there's deep value there, but what they need help with in order to format the concept correctly. Because I won't say that there's any kind of like a secret language or any kind of a handshake in the industry, but producers and networks can absolutely tell if you are a professional. You need to know, what is a log line? What is a sizzle? What is a pitch deck meant to look like? What kinds of questions should I be handling in that sizzle in the first 10, 30 seconds? How do I lead off with my most arresting, beautiful footage? How do I set the table with what the show is all about in the first few seconds? How to not to over explain, what questions do need to be answered. There is a format here that you need to follow. And most creators don't know that. And that's the reason that they're never going to get in the door. They need to understand how to present professionally. And that's what Showrilly can do for you. You fill out a form. It tells you how to mold your idea. Like, okay, now answer this question next. You're filling out a form. Here's what a
Yeah.
log line should be. Now, here's your text box. Don't go over this many characters. It's meant to be short. So that's how a newbie creator can come in and format their concept according to professional standards.
And then can anyone be a producer on the platform and to browse, or do you have to showcase your IMDb credits or certain referrals?
Every producer is hand vetted by me. I either speak to them or I know them, or they apply and I can review. Yes, they're IMDb, DB. Yes, they're professional. They work for a company that sells. The idea is that you are a person who can get into the room. You are the person who has sold concepts before, multiple concepts. That's who creators want to be in touch with. That's who creators want to be reviewing their concepts. There are no agents. There are no managers. There are no other creators looking to go in for inspiration. There's no one on there trying to sell you something. Every producer on there is from a major production company.
And how do you prevent, because in the industry, there's a lot of agents and managers don't like it when you directly send them a script because then there might be a legal issue where if they read it and then create something similar, then the writer can sue and say, "Hey, you stole my idea." So how do you prevent someone from just stealing their concept?
Yeah, it's called parallel development, and producers are afraid that a creator doesn't understand that parallel development exists. Just because you come to me with an idea, hey, let's shoot that using your example, those cowboys in Montana. I might already be working with something on something similar. And I might be further along, or I might not be. Somebody else might have brought it to me. The network might have even asked me for it. And how can I ever convince you that I didn't steal your idea? Now, I like to say in Hollywood, idea theft happens a lot less than people think that it does, but more than it should. So it is possible. And the way that you protect yourself from that possibility of your idea being stolen is that you make it very specific. Make it something that can't be stolen. Make it, if you have casts attached, if you have an exclusive arrangement with the particular farm and the farmers or the cowboys or girls, you have a family that's attached, you have a store that's attached, you have a brand that's attached. The more specific it is, the less kind of like question mark there could ever be about whether somebody stole your idea or not. And honestly, the more value that it has, because no one can recreate that. It's so specific that they can't do it without you. And you're the reason that they want it. They want your access. So no one will steal that. That's number one. But two, from a producer standpoint, yes, it makes them feel safe. That was the question that you asked. Like, how can a producer feel safe on Showrilly? Because they don't want that kind of potential accusation being put on them. And what they need to know, what producers need to know, is that creators, as they enter the platform under the terms of service, they're educated about what parallel development is. And they understand that just because I have an idea about a show in Montana doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of others that have that idea too. And as we go through the upload flow of new concepts, I'm encouraging everybody to make it more and more specific. And then from the creator standpoint, to protect, that's the other half of it. How can I protect my concept? And from a creator standpoint, the platform, as soon as you publish it to the pitch room where producers can see it, you receive in your email a PDF with an IP number, with your name and your concept and what it's all about. And so you have proof, you have evidence that you came up with this idea on this day, you published it here. And then even better than that, you can go into the platform at any time and download at any time a list of producers who have seen your concept, downloaded your concept, shared your concept, viewed your concept. So if there's ever a question, if it ever got to court and you needed to prove, yes, yes, you did see my concept, and then you went and you pitched it to Netflix like 1 week later. And then you have that evidence.
And from the conversations that you have with the producers on the platform, what are they saying?
Producers love it. It saves them so much time, and they can search, they can browse, they can set search alerts. So if you're on the phone with Netflix and Netflix says, hey, do you have an idea about, do you have any concepts that take place in Greenland? And you're like, oh my goodness, this was an old example that I would use a month or two ago when Greenland was in the news. And producers might not have that idea, but they can do a quick search. And while they're on the phone with Netflix, while they're on Zoom, they can do a quick search in the background. Hey, speaking to my associate, could you look and see? And if there isn't, then you can set a search alert. And so you get an email the moment that somebody posts. So producers love it. It's such a time saver. They're never going to look at your unsolicited concept coming into their inbox. It's so hard to get their attention. They're so busy, and there's legal questions that come with it. And there's a professionalism in how the email even arrives. Is it formatted correctly in a way that I can understand it? So there's so many challenges for a first-time creator to get that attention. But on Showrilly, it's formatted in the right way. As a producer, I can log in and browse on my terms when I'm ready to. I can search for what I'm actually looking for, and I can get in touch with the creator in the time and way that I want to follow up.
Well, you bring up a good point where reality TV and unscripted shows are also very time sensitive. where it might be a moment in time where the social media is trending, and especially with the Greenland. And if there was a show that you can make in 3 months or 4 months with already having idea and a cast to shoot in Greenland quickly and release it, then you're ahead of the game in terms of being part of the conversation. I never thought about it like that, but especially for unscripted and even documentary projects, like having a search field of like, okay, Greenland's now in the news. Let's do a story about Greenland and jump in there and really get audience to be invested in this.
Yeah. Something in the news can be in the zeitgeist and all of a sudden everybody is looking for it. And then there could be a show, a sleeper hit on a different network. And all of a sudden every network is looking for their version of that show. Or there might be a show on my network that's doing well and I'm looking for sister programming. And these things just pop up. And there's also cycles in the market, and there's cycles in a producer's kind of calendar where right now I might be super busy collaborating on a certain concept and getting it ready. And then next month I might be hungry for some new ideas. So there's all kinds of reasons why a creator might have the complaint, I'll put that in air quotes, that they come to me as like, hey, I've been on there for a week or a month and I haven't gotten very many producer conversations yet. No one has asked me anything. I haven't sold a show yet. I'm like, it's only been a month. Give that idea a shot. Give it a fair shot. It takes time. Not every producer is on there all the time. Not every producer is on there every week. You need to give it time.
And also for a creator, you can't expect that you have the best idea either. Like you have to just create a portfolio of different ideas, and then one of them may work. Because especially for screenwriters, like it takes multiple ideas of scripts and drafts to even get one producer to read it and then to give notes. So it's also creating the perspective of like, this is a place where you have an opportunity to reach the people with your idea. And if that idea doesn't work, then come up with another idea. Keep building on the skills, keep making the formatting better, create a better sizzle project, but learn what's working, what's not working.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about ratios, like that idea, Fairy Dairy, which I'll give credit to my agent at the time, Fabian Varela, who had the idea and then mentioned it to me. And it's like, you got to find a cast. And so I did. And that was a great concept, and one that, again, I'll say, like, it should have sold. That was a great show. And it didn't. That was one of my 24 that didn't sell. And every creator on there will get closer and closer and closer. And sometimes we'll think, this one should have sold. Maybe if you leave it up there a little bit longer, it will. But some things just never do sell. But the great thing is to keep iterating, to keep at your chosen, your task.
Yeah.
And, one thing that Showrilly does that I don't think you can get anywhere else, aside from maybe having an agent, which, by the way, right now it's free, but a month on Showrilly is going to be way cheaper than taking your agent out for lunch, right?
Yeah.
So aside from having an agent, where else are you going to get actual feedback from producers who can tell you what's working and what's not working? So that's something that you get, producers have the option. I can't force them to give feedback, but they have the option. I encourage them to tell the creators to support the ecosystem, to support the community, and just leave a quick, they can check a box or leave a sentence. Those characters weren't loud enough. Your sizzle needs development. I have these questions. Maybe bring it back again after you provide more detail. And so you can learn and iterate and get better. If one concept doesn't sell, you can come up with the next idea and learn from your mistakes or learn through the process.
And what's the marketing strategy for getting more creators, for getting more producers on the platform?
All of the above. Here I am on your show.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Come and check it out, showrilly.com. But I've found that a lot of creators in the production community, and by that, I mean, the assumption is that it's all people who have no experience, and those everyday people, Jane Public, are absolutely on the platform and have some amazing concepts. Then there's the creator community from YouTube and so forth. But there are also amazing people from the professional community of reality television and documentary, directors of photography, award-winning, editor, producers, assistant producers, makeup artists, sound techs, composers. They have great ideas. But they don't have the relationships with networks to be able to pitch them themselves. but they know what a great cast looks like. They know what a great concept looks like. They probably know how to do a great sizzle reel. Now they have a place to put it.
Amazing. And what do you think the future of unscripted television is going to be? Is it going to still be where you have streamers buying it more? Is it going to be more self-produced and then they acquire? What is your thoughts on that?
Well, thank you for the setup because the future is Showrilly, right?
Yeah.
The future is Showrilly. It's the connecting tissue between YouTube and the professional streamers and mainstream and AVOD. You know, Showrilly is the place where new ideas from new people can come and can surface. And I have this other strategy that I haven't yet even implemented yet, but I will be in the next month or two. So stay tuned because I think that there's a huge opportunity to bring brands into Showrilly as well, because brands are starting to spend so much time and money and creating their own studios, and they're looking for content that they can put their own spin on, not just content that's already created, produced on the network. Here's a chance to do a 30-second spot. Now, this is designing a concept from the ground up in collaboration with the creator and doing it internally. And so I think that there's an opportunity that you're going to start to see in the next couple of months where it's not just producers scouting on Showrilly, but brands will be invited as well.
The brand culture is definitely growing. Advertising is changing where everyone knows that you're selling an ad. So if you can sell a story and then have those products in that story. So for example, if we were doing a unscripted documentary about farming, then you have John Deere,
Yeah.
sponsor the show. It's not to say, hey, sell John Deere tractors, but it's more about how can we create the brand identity with actual stories. And sure, you'll see the products in the back, but doesn't mean that's not the goal of it. It's just creating this saying like, hey, we support these type of stories, we support these type of moments, and try to grow the brand that way.
Or jeans, or cowboy hats, or belt buckles, or saddles. Any of these companies have marketing budgets. Any of these companies should be looking at show to find that concept because they don't know how to find concepts. Where are they going to go? The only place that they somebody's cousin, just like on the other side where it's like, do you have a cousin who works at Netflix? From the brand side, do you have a cousin who went to film school? Like, what ideas do they have? Where are you going to come up with 500 concepts that you can scroll through? And we have, not quite 500 yet, but we're heading there. We're close. And that's there. That's a platform where you can go and just let the ideas find you, just like a producer does.
This has been great. Before we wrap, where should people go to learn more about Showrilly? How should they, if they're a creator, how should they submit their ideas and follow what you're building?
Awesome. Thank you. It's showrilly.com, SHOWRILLY. That's a play on a show reel or show reality. And if you go to the website, everything is explained there from a creator's point of view, from a producer's point of view. If you go to my social media, you can see on LinkedIn and Instagram where I'm more active. You can see what other people are saying. You can see what producers are looking for. Every time I speak with a producer and they tell me, I'm really looking more in this space, or do you have an idea that kind of is in that lane? I'll put that on I'll put that on social media and put out an alert and let people know what's hot. So please come check it out, showrilly.com.
Awesome. Thank you again for coming on.
You're amazing. Thank you.
That's it for this episode of Hollywood Valley. If you enjoyed this conversation, follow the show wherever you get your podcasts and share it with someone who'd want to hear it. I'm Alvaro Cruz. We'll see you next week.